So here in Delaware, we have the highest incarceration rate per capita in the entire world.
They don't care. They're just going to do what the fuck they want. And they're not going to care about how you think about it. They don't care about how you look at it. They're above the law.
It's a business. Black lives are a business to the police department. We're a business to the courthouse, probation officer, parole officer, even bail bonds. They make money off of us. Funeral homes, they make money off of us.
Jeremy, Yaheem, and Jabri, they didn't even have a chance.
Delaware, the first state, is filled with all types of people. People from all different backgrounds, creed, colors, and races may find themselves in Delaware. Wilmington is a conglomerate of all different types of people, and at first glance, one would think that it is definitely a place to be. But as you dive deeper into Wilmington and what's going on, you will see that there are some major issues when it comes to the judicial system and the police department. We get the opportunity to talk to Jonda Brown, which is the mother of Yaheem Harris, a young unarmed black male that was shot by police. She shares with us the way that she learned about how her son had been involved in an incident.
Hello, on February 2nd, 2019, I say about 6 p.m. I was in my house, actually in my bed, talking to a young lady on the phone, and I heard a rhythm of car doors opening, and I said to the young lady, hold on, something's happening, somebody's about to come in here. So as I looked out the window, I seen all kinds of cars, and they banged on the door. I asked them what did they want. They told me to come to the door. I came to the door. When I came, they showed me a search warrant. The search warrant was saying that they was looking for, I want to think, a gun. So they began to search my home and started telling me why they was there, why they was here. And after the search was completed, because I seen them go up the steps, come down, go down the basement steps, come back up, and I seen so much worry in their face, and I'm like, well, what are y'all supposed to be looking for? Like, what's going on? Why y'all here? Miss Brown, be calm, he got tubes, and he's responding, speaking about my son Yaheem, and I'm like, what are you saying? Something happened to my son? Yes, Miss Brown, we would like to let you know that Yaheem was shot by one of our officers. Immediately I said, is the officer in here? They said no, they had to remove him because it's an investigation. Then they told me to sit down. Then they told me, continue to tell me, basically Yaheem's been shot and he's at the Christiana Hospital. And I can go to the Christiana Hospital, me thinking I can go there to be with him. We arrived after they cleaned up what they need to clean up here at our home. Me and several other family members got together, raced out to Christiana Hospital where we were turned away. The last resort we got was being directed to the Wilmington Police Department. I went there. Upon arriving there, a lady detective came out and told me that a detective will be contacting me, which till this day I'm still waiting for that contact. For several days we were just so worried about Yaheem, his condition, how he's feeling, what he's going through, you know, having not too many answers on really what took place. Other than what the media put out there. Again, my son was in Christiana care for, I say, approximately 14 to 17 days with no support, going in and out of surgeries, being placed on a I believe, an oxygen tube, as well as, I believe, a catheter, so he can pass a urine. Upon release from the Christiana Care, he was put into Gander Hill Prison. Due to his injuries, I was recommended to try to get him out of there because Gander Hill does not have the proper equipment to care for someone, from my knowledge of what Yahim trauma has, you know, how it has affected him. We was fortunate to post a bail for Yahim during that time, which was February the 25th, I believe. That's the day I was able to post his bail, which was $7,000 cash. Upon us posting that bail, Yahim was released back out here in the community, doing what we expected him to do. He started back up on school. He did have a curfew. He was out riding with some friends of his. They was being tailed by some type of agency. Upon pulling everyone out the vehicle, they ran Yahim's name in and gave us some old bogus lie on that he missed court, when clearly we got a verbal call from Mr. Tate, who was active councilman, him and Mr. Armstrong at that time, for Yahim. So he had informed me that anything that was expected of court was canceled until further notice. But the agency who pulled Yahim and his friends over upon him coming home to be in the house for his curfew, they came up with this old, he missed court, knowing that it wasn't even any court. Therefore, that's what landed him back inside Gander Hill Prison. Upon him being there, we went through the Armstrong and Mr. Tate, finally bringing on Chris Johnson, who appeared to be a man of his word, with, you know, holding police officers accountable for any misconduct. And from my understanding, he failed to do his job. His counsel for Yahim was very poor. I was told that things of motions and any bail reductions that he made or could have presented to the judge and the prosecutor were never done. I am puzzled to this day on why did the prosecutor Casale, that was on Yahim's case, why did he resign from his job a week before Kathleen Jennings made an announcement that she will be releasing Yahim.
Jonda continues to tell us how the incidents may have unfolded that put the police on the pursuit of her son.
So the discovery that I found out about Yahim Harris and what happened on that day was, apparently someone stole a car. Later on, called Yahim. He did get in the car. He was the driver. What I'm learning and what I've seen from video, police officers behind this vehicle summons it over. They pulled over. You see Yahim exiting from the driver's side, and you see another young man exiting out the passenger side. You see my son running as soon as he get out the car, but you see him look back, and I can only but think that the only reason why he would look back is because the police officer shot him as soon as he seen his body out of the car. That's what I got out of it. We later learned that they were accusing Yahim of, number one, a carjacking that I believe never happened. And if it did happen, it didn't happen the way that it was reported in the way. The call was called in as a carjacking. Young lady said that 2 masked men put a gun to her and took her car. We call it street news. Street news told me that was a lie. What happened was, young lady went out to heat up her car and went back in the home. When she went back in the home, came out just seeing her car leaving. Followed the car, spotted the car, and that's when the shooting unfolded. Again, like I was saying, that Yaheem exited the vehicle. From what I seen from video footage from the driver's side, as he ran, it looks like he was shot. Soon as the officer seen him exit seen him exit the vehicle, the officer didn't go for cover. He just shot a moving object. And later on we found out that they picked a black cell phone case up out of the car and placed it near Yaheem's body, as if though the officer can make that his excuse on firing his firearm. I also learned that an officer did perform first aid on Yaheem, whereas though that may have contributed to saving his life. From the footage that I've seen, the passenger of the car was apprehended at gunpoint. It didn't look like too much was going on his side, not even too much of officer doing no searching, no circling. I have seen officers come to a scene whereas though they circling stuff, and you know, if a gun was present, everybody in their mind would have been able to see it, you know what I mean? So, but so we're learning a lot a year later about facts that actually occurred that day. So we still going through it. It's like every time I talk about it, it's like we're reliving that day. Because as I think about it and smile about it, it's like, wow, a year later, look what I can say now that I didn't have. I was clueless a year ago, you know what I mean? And then the more I learned, not only on the part of the hospital, but the Wilmington Police Department, the more I learn about it, just makes me sick to my stomach to know that they just was so careless and so busy trying to assassinate somebody. I don't make no excuses for anyone who takes anything from anyone, but them type of things are replaceable. So
McKee Booker, a longtime community activist, the leader of Black Liberation Movement Delaware and Black Lives Matter Delaware, talks about some of the things that he's seen in Delaware, specifically Wilmington.
We did a march up here in Rodney Square, and a brother took off his shoe and showed me his foot. The police damn near shot his foot off. That blew my mind. That brought me back to reality. That lit more flames to the fire that's burning in me about why I should stay on the battlefield, about the corruption in the Wilmington Police Department. Body cameras. Now we have political parties, the Democratic Party, 9 to 10 black individuals who could not pass a body cam vote, legislation, resolution, call it what you want. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. But they could not pass a resolution in the city of Wilmington for the Wilmington Police Department to wear cameras when 60 to 70% are African Americans here in the city of Wilmington. As the young people say, where do they do that at? So you have a lot of people questioning the politicians about how did you miss the mark on this? Now the bill comes back around again, and my man, who I call 50 grand, Sam Guy, New York, had that on the floor 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. You do the math. Had it on the floor. Now it's back on the floor, and they steal his resolution about body cameras. Because what he said years ago, he saw coming to fruition right now. A judiciary committee was voted down on city council where we could have took Brother Bam's case to the public and held all those police officers on their own mock trial to let the public get a first hand of seeing what's really going on. They don't like the exposure here in Wilmington, Delaware, in the state of Delaware. I just saw a news clip from some organization that has their own media down in Dover, where they gave Delaware State an F in exposure and transparency. There is no transparency in the city of Wilmington. They said Jeremy McDowell had a gun. Where are the pictures? If he did have a gun, or if he does have a gun, why haven't we seen the pictures?
Keandra McDowell, the sister of Jeremy McDowell, the young man who was murdered by police, sits down with us and tells us how she found out what happened to her brother.
My name is Keandra McDowell. I am Jeremy McDowell's sister. I'm the second oldest. Back to September 23rd, 2015. I had actually just clocked into work. I was working 2 jobs. I was working at Rene and Taco Bell at the time in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I had just clocked in and I noticed my phone just kept going crazy. Like it just kept ringing, but I couldn't answer my phone because I had just clocked in at work. So I'm working at the register or whatever at Rite Aid, so I just happened to look at my phone and glance down, and I seen all these posts on Facebook like R.I.P. Bam, why they killed Bam like that. So I told my boss, I was like, I gotta go outside. Like something just happened. I'm not sure if it's true, but something just happened. I gotta go outside. And I went out before I could even get my foot out the door. Rite Aid, my stepmom called me. Now I was like, hello, and I could hear in her voice something was wrong, and she was like, police just killed Bam. And I was like, what? I was like, they did what? She was like, the police just shot your brother, Kiki. And I immediately like dropped. Now I'm thinking they shot him a couple times, he's going to be living or whatever. So by that time I dropped him, I picked it up, I was like, is he here? Like, where is he at? What hospital he is? I'm leaving work now, I'm going to go find him. Like, I'm going to him, I need to be there. It's like, he's gone. So all she kept on saying is, he's gone. He's gone. And I was like, gone? I was like, how? Why how did the police murder Bam? Like, he's paralyzed in a wheelchair. What the heck happened? Like, there had to have been something else to do. So by that time, my boss and them came, because I was on the ground by then. I had just dropped. They came and I guess consoled me and asked me what was going on. I told them that the police killed my brother, and I was like, I gotta go. My boss from Taco Bell and Rite Aid was like right diagonal from each other. She came out and she found out what was happening. They was like, look, you gotta calm down first. They took my keys, because I'm like, I'm ready to go on the road. Took my keys. I calmed down, and then this is like 2 hours. I'm gonna sit in the parking lot just dumbfounded, just reading Facebook like, this can't be true. So I get my car keys. I immediately started driving to Wilmington. Get to Wilmington, get to the crime scene. There was so many police there. When I walked up for one, the police was laughing. Like they was just standing like in little sections of Tulip Street just laughing. And I immediately got pissed off, like, hold on, y'all just executed my brother, and then y'all just sitting here laughing like this, like, it's funny. Before I got there, they had just picked up my brother's body off the ground. He was out there for 4.5 hours laying on the ground. I was immediately looking for my grandma, because on the way of me driving up here, I had called one of my other family members, and I was like talking to them and just trying to see what was going on, and they told me that they just rushed my grandma to the hospital because she had a heart attack. She seen Bam on the ground and had a white sheet on him, and his feet were sticking out of the white sheet. And she said the reason why she had a heart attack is because Bobby Cummins, the chief at the time, was laughing. And she said immediately her heart just started tightening, and she had a heart attack. So they had to rush her to the hospital. It was just a horrible day. By that time, the video had came out, so the video was already circulating of what happened to Bam Bam. Immediately before the video came out, they had already said that Bam Bam had a gun. He was waving the gun was one story. He shot himself was another story. Then when the video came out, the whole story switched up to where he was a suicidal man and he shot himself. So we all just going back and forth. My two uncles was like, we just seen him. He just left our house because he was supposed to be going back to the nursing home down the street from here to drop off a urine sample because they wanted to make sure he ain't have no infections or anything in his body because he had just got out of the hospital. He was staying at the nursing home. So it was just a mess. They said Bam Bam came on Rodney Street like 7 o'clock in the morning. He always came out there every day at the same time because my sister and my nephew, he was the only one born at the time. He would always come get him, put him on his lap in the wheelchair and roll around there to the corner store to get him a blue water ice. He would then drop Josiah off, and then he left with a guy by the name of OJ. So after a couple of days passed by, we're back talking and we're just trying to add everything up and make everything make sense. So the day before, him and his girlfriend had gotten into an argument. And I don't know what the argument was over. She had a gun in her name for my brother. And she came and got in an argument. You know how females are, well, give me my stuff back. So she wanted the gun back that she had put in her name for my brother. So she took the gun. They got into a tussle and she got the gun from him. So she took the gun. He snatched her pocketbook in the midst of her snatching the gun. So, and the gun was in evidence as well. I mean, the pocketbook was in the evidence as well. I'm thinking that from them arguing the day before, somebody said she had a boyfriend that just came home from jail. I'm guessing that because Bam Bam was a man and she thought she needed somebody up there to help her because her pocketbook had all her information in it, credit cards, whatever else. And I'm guessing that in the mix of Bam Bam and OJ leaving, she must have called him and said, where you at? And da-da-da. You know how guys are, they don't care. They just want to tell him where they at. So she met him on Tulip Street. The daycare worker stated that after she heard one shot, she heard one shot. She said when she peeked out of the window of the daycare, she seen a guy run past with dreads or braids. Bam Bam should have had 2 to 3 ounces of weed on him that day. Because he sold weed. He was, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to act like he was an angel or anything. I'm guessing she called him. They met on Tulip Street and it started from there. I'm guessing she brought the guy with her and she wanted her pocketbook back. It had everything in it, keys, everything in it. She wanted her pocketbook. So Bam Bam, I know my brother, he like, I'm not giving you nothing. I'm not giving you nothing. And she found out that where Bam Bam was because she called him, and I'm guessing she had to bring a guy up there with her, you know, because she's a female, he's a guy, they were arguing, so she already knew that he wasn't going to give her a pocketbook back without some type of, you know, arguing back and forth or whatever. So I'm guessing that that he came up there with her, the boy, his name is Trills or something, Trills. He came up there with her, him and my brother got into an altercation, and I don't know, I don't know if she gave the boyfriend or whatever it was the gun, but the gun went off. The boy came out of the detailing shop, Nate, who took the video, came out of the detailing shop because it's right there in the alleyway, and he said when he came out, he noticed my brother's pants was down to his knees. He said his wheelchair was flipped upside down. He said, went to Bam and said, you good, man? You good, cuz? And he said, Bam said, yeah, I'm good. Can you help me flip my wheelchair around? Can you help me in my chair? He said, so he went to Bam Bam. He said, flip this wheelchair around. And then my brother pulled himself over to his wheelchair and climbed in there. He said at the time his pants was still down to his ankles. He said once Bam Bam got in the wheelchair, Bam Bam pulled his pants up. He said, asked him one more time, are you good? He said, yeah, man, I'm good. And the boy Nate went back to detailing the car in the alleyway. Nate said no longer than 3 minutes, he heard 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. Nate said he heard all the police commotion. He just heard all these sirens. So he said he came out. He said right when he seen how many police was there and that they were messing with Bam Bam, he said he immediately turned on his phone and started recording. He said that it was cops everywhere. He said that it was just a messy scene. He said he never seen Bam Bam with a gun. He said I was there with him. He said I was there when he got robbed. His pants was down to his knees, sis. He said he did not have a gun. I would have seen it. So the cops already, it was already about probably I'm gonna say about 7-8 officers on this team. Joseph DeLuce, who we call Shotgun Joe, parked his car on Lincoln Street, across Lincoln and Tula. He parked this car. You can see the car when he pulled up to the scene, like when he put it in park, it like jerked back. He immediately got out of the driver's side, went straight to the trunk, pulled the shotgun out of the trunk and cocked it back by the time he got back to the front of the cop car and went running straight up the Tula Street, right up the Tula Street towards my brother. He got there, he gave 2 commands. By the third second, my brother, he shot my brother in the neck with a shotgun. He said, show me your hands, give me your hands. Boom, and he shot Bam in the neck with a shotgun. Now, he was the last officer on the scene. You already had a whole lot of officers. You already had 6 or 7 officers already there. Which, if they felt that it was a need to shoot my brother, they would have already shot him because they were already there. You hear it in the video, probably like a minute or so after that, maybe less than a minute, you hear all these other bullets going off. 16 more. They shot him 17 times. The only reason why Bam Bam's body stayed in that wheelchair for as long as it did was until the officers got done shooting their weapon. Once they got done shooting him 16 times, that's when he fell because the bullets was keeping him up in the wheelchair. The medical examiner stated that Bam Bam would not have lived no longer than 2 to 3 minutes maybe from the shotgun blast to the neck, the first shot. After that, it's just been hell ever since then. So the investigation report comes out. We get to hear the call from the 911 caller. The 911 call was she said it's a crazy man. It's a crazy man in a wheelchair. He got a gun. It's a crazy man in a wheelchair. That's what she said on the 911 caller. The 911 operator stayed on the phone with her until he could hear the police getting there. And once he heard the police riding there, once he heard the police coming to the scene, he told the 911 caller, it's okay, ma'am, be safe or something like that. He was like, when they get there, they're going to take him out. And the 911 caller said, oh no, oh Jesus, please don't kill him. So just from that alone, they had already, the 911 operator already said what they was going to do to my brother just right there in the 911 call before the police even got there. Later on through the investigation, once the report came out, they asked the 911 caller, I guess, did you see the gun? It says it in their paperwork on page 10 of the DOJ's report. The 911 caller said she never seen my brother with the gun. She stated she was going off of the gunshot that she heard. That gunshot was from the robber. So all of this, that he's a crazy person. He's waving the gun. He has a gun. She never seen my brother wave a gun. She never seen a gun in my brother's person. She never seen no gun at all. So the whole story is a mess. Then in the investigation report, you hear the other police officers were telling Shotgun Joe to take cover, take cover, take cover. They had the scene under control. Shotgun Joe said he didn't hear them. He had tunnel vision. I thought the correct procedure when an officer comes to a scene is to go and speak to the other officers who was already there to try to figure out what's going on in the scene and figure out where do you want me at? Where should I be at? Not just come running up like a wild man with a shotgun and shot within 3 seconds of being on the scene. He wasn't even never called to the scene. He was never called to the scene, and he wasn't in the area. He just showed up and helped execute my brother. The officer said the reason why they shot my brother 16 times was because they claimed that they didn't know where the shot came from, the shot from Shotgun Joe, Joseph DeLuce. But my thing is, how is that possible when all of y'all are watching my brother? Y'all are all watching him. Y'all all have your eyes on him. So how did you think the shot came from him? If he ain't have nothing, Shotgun Joe was the one with the shotgun. So it is just a messy situation. We've been asking them since day one, where is this picture of this gun that y'all claim that y'all have? Where's the picture of the gun? We've been saying this since October of 2015. I think that's the first time I had my first protest. And we were already saying that because we knew my brother didn't have no weapon that day. We knew that. Now, July 28th of 2020, now the DOJ, the Attorney General, released photos of this supposedly gun that my brother had. He never had no gun. You could look in the video. There's a video footage of everything that happened to him. You could look in the video. Not one time did you see my brother have a gun. Not one time did you see when he fell out that wheelchair that a gun fell on the ground. Because he didn't have no weapon at all. In the DOJ's report, they stated that his wheelchair was crashed up against the car. And the gun was right behind the wheel. The wheelchair is supposed to be facing the street. My brother's legs stopped the wheelchair from moving with the way that he fell out his wheelchair on the left side. And his hand in the back. His hand was in the back. The wheelchair was in a locked position. So how would it be able to move in circles? It's impossible. It's just impossible.
Terrence Jones, the NAACP private investigator and retired, highly decorated Philadelphia police officer, talks about why he got involved in the incidents that were happening in Delaware.
My name is Terrence Jones. I'm the founder and executive director for Total Justice. The question was asked, why am I involved in cases in Delaware? What brought my attention to it was the state of Delaware NAACP President Richard Smith. He contacted me and said that there were a lot of cases where people were shot and killed by police, black people shot and killed by police, and mostly, shot and killed by white officers. So he wanted me to do some independent investigations. The first investigation he asked me to investigate independently was Jeremy McDowell. I told him I couldn't do the investigation unless a family member contacted me. So like a week later, Mr. Smith had Phyllis McDowell, the mother of Jeremy, in the vehicle with him, and she gave me permission. She asked me to do the independent investigation into what happened to her son over 4 years ago. Jeremy McDowell was shot and killed by 4 officers in the Wilmington Police Department back on September 23rd, 2015. And when I did the investigation, I started by first looking at everything that I could look at as far as the internet. But all the YouTube videos and news report videos stopped right before he got shot. I then went down to the scene and tried to find some witnesses and tried to take some measurements and just look around and see what I could gather. But I knew that without the uncut video, I wouldn't be able to reach any type of conclusion. I then looked on the website of the Attorney General's office and looked at some archives of different things that Attorney General Matt Dent, who was the Attorney General at the time, had archived and had put out there in the internet, and found that he only put out like half the story. So I knew right then and there it was a cover-up. In this case, it was very, very clear. It was clear about the corruption. It was clear about the cover-up. It was clear about how far they went to cover up for these officers, and it was very, very troubling. Like, everybody that's watching this should be appalled, should be disgusted, should be upset, because if it could happen to Jeremy McDowell, it could happen to anybody. In this Jeremy McDowell case, what's the most troubling is how far the cover-up went, how deep the cover-up went, and there's like no shame to it. It seemed as if the Wilmington Police Department and the Attorney General's office didn't give a damn about Jeremy McDowell, didn't give a damn about this black man. His black life truly did not matter to them, and still doesn't matter, even with Kathleen Jennings. You changed the Attorney General, but you're getting the same result. Kathleen Jennings, the Attorney General, is the highest law enforcement officer in the state of Delaware, and she'll meet with you like the way she met with me on other cases and on the Jeremy McDowell case, and she'll meet with a family member of someone who's shot and killed by police, but she's not going to lock anybody up. I did recently an investigation, and I've come to the conclusion from June 30th of 2020 to June 1st of 2005, a 15-year span, there's been 56 shootings against citizens in Delaware, and 0 cops, none of them held accountable, none of those cops locked up. So what the message that the Attorney General's office, who have the power to lock these officers up when they do wrong, when they shoot someone, when they kill someone, the message that they sent is that these officers are perfect. These officers are untouchable. These officers, no matter what, they're not going to hold them responsible for anything. What the Attorney General's office has said in the last 15 years is that they don't care. They're just going to do what the fuck they want, and they're not going to care about how you think about it. They don't care about how you look at it. They're above the law, and it's trouble. And I'm sorry for the language.
So, when you investigated the Jeremy McDowell case, what exactly did you discover in your findings?
So, what I discovered is that there's a playbook that these police departments use, and the Attorney General's office and prosecutor's office use across the country. And it's to not be transparent and not to hold bad officers accountable for their misconduct. So in the shooting of Jeremy McDowell, what they did was they brought in some independent investigators, and they didn't give them all the information, and they didn't give the public all the information. So they gave out information that will give a favorable light to the officers, and this is the epitome of corruption. It's insulting our intelligence. It's saying that we're dumb and they're smart, and they can just, put these breadcrumbs out and just give us the minimum information, and then we're supposed to believe their conclusions. Well, think about it. If you're only giving half of what happened, how can you even come to a conclusion that's fair, that's impartial, that's objective, that's honest? You can't. And that's what I've discovered. Once I was able to get the uncut video of the shooting of Jeremy McDowell, and then Keandra McDowell and I put pressure back in June on the Attorney General releasing it to the public, which she ended up doing with our pressure. It's clear that Jeremy McDowell never had a gun. So when you look at that video, and I urge everyone to look at this video, it's extremely troubling. This was someone's son. This black man was someone's brother, someone's uncle. This man was loved by his family, loved by his friends, and they just shot him down like I can't even think of the words to explain. I can't even say shot down like a dog, because we know that people value dogs more than humans in a lot of cases. But he was shot down as if he was less than human. I guess that's the only way I can explain it. As he was less than human. The video clearly showed that Corporal DeLeos, street name Shotgun Joe, from the Wilmington Police Department, disregarded the orders from other officers that were hiding behind cars to stay back. He disregarded them and went beyond them. Just like Laquan McDonald, the shooting that happened in Chicago. He went beyond them where he would have been safe. Like, I would say to you, what law enforcement officer is trained that way? There is no law enforcement officer in the United States that's trained that way to, when you have a threat, when you believe that someone has a gun, to go and not take cover, to go and put yourself out in the open. He goes in the open. He comes within a car length and a half of Jeremy McDowell. Jeremy McDowell wasn't even facing him. Jeremy McDowell was a paraplegic, and Jeremy McDowell was faced this way. And Shotgun Joe had a right profile view of him, meaning that the right side of him. So Jeremy McDowell had already been shot. and he was obviously looking at the video in a lot of pain from being shot, and he was bleeding around this area, down around his stomach and his private area, and he was fidgeting and moving around, and he obviously was suffering a lot of pain, and he's facing this way, and Shotgun Joe is to his right, a car length and a half away, and Shotgun Joe comes with his shotgun up to his shoulder, and he shouts, "Let me see your hands. Show me your hands." Boom! And he fires the shot. And that blast coming from that gun obviously created all kinds of damage to Jeremy McDowell. He was in a wheelchair. And then after shooting him, Shotgun Joe goes in between two cars and goes behind him, and then he comes back out to walk in front of him. Who does that? Who would put himself in front of the person that you just shot? And what's clear in the video is that Jeremy McDowell does not have a gun. He doesn't have a weapon. He doesn't have it on his person, doesn't have it in his lap. It's not in his wheelchair, it's not on the ground below. There's no gun anywhere. So for Shotgun Joe to go and give an order, "Show me your hands, let me see your hands," and then boom, to shoot him with the shotgun, it's just, he didn't even give him a chance to comply. And he did that because he wanted to shoot him. He wanted, he's had a taste of blood before from a previous shooting, and he wanted that feeling again. And he shot him. So then when he comes back out in front, it was like a firing squad between Shotgun Joe and three other corporals in uniform, and they get in front of the person that supposedly has a gun. You know what I mean? Just no one's trained that way. No law enforcement officer's trained that way. I wasn't trained that way. No one's trained that way. They get in front of them like a firing squad, and then they say, "Drop the gun," when Jeremy McDowell goes in his pocket. So to make it clear, he didn't go in his waistband, he went in his pocket. And I believe he went in his pocket because he's bleeding all over the place. And he might have been doing it to stop the blood. But he goes and he only puts his fingers in down to the knuckle. And when he does that, what's important for your viewers to see or to know is that when he does this with his fingers down to his knuckles, the officers say, "Drop the gun." If I had a gun in my pocket, could you see it? No. He has his finger like this, they drop the gun. So this is another false narrative that they gave. He says, "Drop the gun," and then drop the gun, and then when he goes to bring his hands out, they fire 16 shots. And just totally mutilate his body. They shoot him 16 times. Jeremy McDowell's hand comes out with no gun, and he goes over his head and he falls to the left of the wheelchair. He falls down on his face to the left of his wheelchair. That's important because you don't see a gun in the video anywhere on the ground. And then later, when we pressured, Keandre McDowell and I pressured the Attorney General to release all crime scene photographs, and they released the photograph of the gun. The gun's approximately 10 feet away. The gun is nowhere near him. So in other words, Jeremy McDowell falls to the left of the wheelchair, and in the picture of the gun, the wheelchair is moved from here to 10 feet away, approximately. And the gun is to the right of the wheelchair. The wheelchair is now facing in the opposite direction, and the gun is by the curb. So it obviously was planted there. It was obviously moved there. And I'm not laughing or smiling because it's funny. I'm laughing and smiling because it's so freaking outrageous. It's so fucking outrageous that they would even release something like that and think that people are dumb enough, stupid enough to believe that, oh, yeah, that's where it was. So what the Attorney General still has not done to this day is release all the information. I talked earlier about giving you half of the story. To this day, they haven't released all the information. They're just giving you tidbits of information. They haven't released the statements of the 4 officers that were involved in the shooting. They haven't released the 3 white female officers that saw the shooting and said that they rolled over Jeremy McDowell, one of the officers, female officers, said she rolled Jeremy McDowell over. You're not supposed to do that. The guy's dead. There's no need for anybody to touch anything. Every law enforcement office in the country is taught that when you have a crime scene, you can't tamper with that crime scene. This crime scene was tampered with. You have to leave everything the way it is. You're supposed to rope everything off, and you got to make sure that no one touches anything. And this officer was allowed to roll Jeremy McDowell over. This officer was allowed to go inside Jeremy's pants, allegedly. And allegedly in his pants, down to where his boxers are, she found a gun. When she rolled him over, she said, "Where's the gun? Where's the gun?" According to her, where's the gun? And then when she goes in his pants, she allegedly finds a gun and places it by her. Well, we know that's a lie. And we know that's a lie through the crime scene photo of where the gun was discovered. So if I'm right here and Jeremy's right there, and I take the gun out of his boxers and I place it behind me, it would be within a foot or two of where I'm at. That gun, when you look at the video and you look at where the crime scene photo is and you match it up together, that gun is at least 10 feet away. So it's not here, a foot away. It's not 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's at least 10 feet or more away. I have no confidence in Kathleen Jennings. I have no confidence in her Attorney General's office. I have no confidence with none of the lawyers within her office. Most of those lawyers were held over from Matt Dehn, who's the most corrupt Attorney General in the United States. Kathleen's the second most corrupt Attorney General in the United States. I met with them in June along with Kendra McDowell. I gave them newly discovered evidence, and that newly discovered evidence was I gave them did I have that? I gave them an article of a guy who was the firearms examiner and ballistics expert. His name is Carl Rohn. I'm trying to look for his picture right now that I blew up. And I gave them the article showing that he's corrupt and that he was fired and locked up. He took a plea deal, so he's not a credible witness. He did the firearms examination and ballistics in the Jeremy McDowell case. I found a Supreme Court decision, a Delaware Supreme Court decision for a guy that brought up the fact that Carl Rohn had testified in his case and had gathered information. And it was enough to grant him a new trial, and it's very, very hard to get a new trial in Delaware. So I gave them newly discovered evidence just to have the spokesperson for Kathleen Jennings to turn around and say that I haven't provided any newly discovered evidence. Kendra McDowell earlier provided newly discovered evidence, some witnesses that had never been interviewed. She gave them the names of the witnesses and the numbers of the witnesses, and Kathleen Jennings still has not committed. She would not commit, even though her office said if they had newly discovered evidence, they would reopen the investigation. She has not committed to reopening the investigation. She just said that she's going to interview these witnesses. So I asked Kendra McDowell's permission, and she granted me permission to send a letter out to the U.S. Attorney for the state of Delaware to have them do an investigation into what happened to Jeremy McDowell. And I'm going to send that out at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning because I have no confidence, no faith in this Attorney General's office under the lack of leadership of Kathleen Jennings.
Next, we're going to show you the actual cell phone footage of Jeremy McDowell being murdered by police.
He's over here! Give me your head! Show me your head!
Oh, shit.
Show me your head! Show me your head! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Grab it. Coming this way. What the fuck?
Behind you, Joe. Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Put your hands up!
Put your hands up, cuz. They shot his ass. He reaching to get. Oh, he bleeding. He bleeding.
Grab his hand. What the fuck?
They shot him with a pellet gun. You know, thumbs on the knockout. Man, put your hands.
Fine.
That was sick.
CAO Hope gave us some of his time out of his busy schedule to talk about the things that he's experienced in Wilmington, Delaware over the years.
Right now, you're checking out number one on the CEO Hope. I'm here today to talk about a few things, right? Mainly right now, we're talking about what's going on in the city of Wilmington. And not just in the city of Wilmington as well. It's reflected what's going on a nationwide thing, far as the police departments. We're dealing with a lot of racism, we're dealing with a lot of antagonizing, and things of that nature. So I want to, give it from my point of view, my perspective, and for those who don't know me, let me give you a background on who I am. Of course, like I said, I'm CEO Hope. I'm one of the co-founders of Rock Nation. I've been in entertainment industry for 23 years. But fast forward, in the political arena here in Wilmington, I've opened up schools, daycares, after-school programs. We were the first black business owners that was on Lawyers Row here in Wilmington, Delaware on 13th Street. We was on Lawyers Row. So we dealt with the racism here with buildings. We dealt with the police situations here as well. But fast forwarding again to 12. Let's get on the topic of 12. The police department. A lot of individuals don't understand that Wilmington police officers, 90% of them are rejected officers. Let's first talk about that. What a reject officer means is that if you're not fired but terminated or you're demoted in a police department anywhere in the state of Delaware, you're allowed to come to Wilmington and become a police officer here in Wilmington. So a lot of these officers that are coming to Wilmington have already attitude problems, issues going on with them. They've been disciplined, reprimanded, and they landed here on Wilmington, Delaware with a vintage to prove something. So this is why we have a lot of police brutality cases that are not noted but go on here in the city of Wilmington. Those are the things that we need to touch on and bring to light. We need to ask about the data as far as police cases. Also in the city of Wilmington, one thing they need to put here, and not just here, on a large scale, they need to put a police accountability website together per se. Like if somebody get locked up, you commit a crime, they put you in the paper, they put you online, say these are crimes. Not knowing if you're guilty of the crime or not, you're still being broadcast as a criminal. The police department needs the same exact thing. So we know these officers who are getting in trouble in the police department. We need to know why these officers are coming here into Wilmington. Because again, if we know that Officer Bike, it came from Sussex County and he was fired or laid off, and we know why, it might have been abuse, it might have been neglect, whatever, he's now landing on our steps here in Wilmington. So a lot of police that we have in Wilmington are rejected officers or vengeance who are not of the community. So when you're not of the community, you can adapt to the community. So when we talk about 12, we talk about on a large scale. We're talking about policy to be changed. The chokehold, granted, they can block that, stop that, but that's not the issue. The issue is the mentality of the officer that they're bringing into the forces. More doors need to be open to people who got criminal backgrounds who change their life around. The city of Wilmington needs also to reactivate a community patrol. What that means is that if there's a case going on, there are citizens that actually could show up as well with the police to maybe diffuse the situation. Who may, say, okay, that's the mental health patient. I know that. I know Mike. Mike has mental issues. Let me see if I can calm Mike down. Domestic violence. We may better say, okay, I know Ron and I know her. Who's in this area? Go talk to Ron, and we may be able to pull that traction. But again, you have to realize the main thing with police. As a police officer, you're not making that much money. You're getting a salary pay. That's all you're getting. The police money is made in overtime. So that's what we understand. The overtime is what makes the police officers their money. So what happens is, if somebody killed me right now, and somebody identified who killed me, the police will tell you that's hearsay, you have no proof, we gotta investigate, we don't know what's going on. Because the detective is making more money working overtime than he would as an officer. So once he knocks off my murderer, his overtime stops, okay? So we understand that it's a business. Black lives are a business to the police department. We're a business to the courthouse, probation officer, parole officers, even bail bonds. They make money off of us. Funeral homes, they make money off of us. Yeah, they'll promote and talk about decreasing crime and all this good stuff, but in their mind, that's not what they want. This is why when the police lock you up and the prosecutor give you them charges, not knowing if you're guilty or not. We're not saying the police ain't got good officers, but again, a silent officer that's there for the wrong reasons should be held accountable for the same thing officers that have done. If I commit a crime, if I rob a bank and I have 3 people with me in a car, even if they don't even know what I'm doing, if I go in that bank and I rob the bank, I come back out, I jump in that car and we pull off. Police get behind that car, all 3 of us is being charged with that bank robbery. Any crime you have, you have a person with you, it's called accessory. So things when police do things to the civilians, every officer that's there need to be held accountable for the same standards. This is making policy change. We don't care about the talking and the rhetoric and we're going to ban the chokehold. We don't care about that. We want accountabilities. And being that woman is so small, let's look at politics. Obama, who was the president of the United States, out of Chicago, aka Chirac, was #1 city for big city for murders, Chicago. You had the vice president, Joe Biden, here from Wilmington, who was the vice president, and his city was what? #1 murder capital for small cities. People never looked at that. Chicago, #1 big city, Wilmington, #1 for small cities. But we have presidents in office that did not directly impact the community. Because when they got to certain positions, it became obsolete to them. So we have to say, what do we do? Where do we go? We need to push for legislations, push for bills. We got to start at the city council level. You can't jump to the governor. You can't jump to the county. You can't jump to the state. You can't run to D.C. Start locally in your cities. Demand city council change laws and policies. If they don't, every city in America has what is called a recall election, where all you need is a certain amount of signatures to remove that candidate out of office. So until we're able to show them that we're not afraid to replace them midstream after a year, they're going to continue to do the same thing to us over and over and over again. Because remember, elected official is actually a job. There's rules and regulations. There's things you can and cannot do. They're going to do what the powers above them tell them to do to pacify the community. So we have to know that what do we do? Get more younger individuals to say, you know what, let me run for office. We got to get more black women to start running for office, to become leadership positions. Because remember, women are nurturers by nature. They have a balance. So we have to say, where do we go from now? I can't breathe. We heard it 1,000 times. Trayvon Martin with Skittles, Zimmer making money off that now. Where do we go from here? Policies, legislations, we need to start getting our own finances back to our community and blocking things. When the police are attacking someone, don't be afraid to get your car with your camera. It's illegal, it's legit. But if they're going to hold up in court, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So one of the biggest reasons why I personally left the city of Wilmington was because there was no financial backing and support here for positive movements outside of their circle. So I had to relocate to go get the finances to better come back into Wilmington. Mind you, we had schools here, after-school programs, daycares, homeless shelters. We had thousands of kids in camps. We never took a grant from the city a day in our life. We didn't ask them for no money a day in our life. Because when we take from the city, they now have control of what you do. They pacifying now what you do and what you're not going to do. So when we out here protesting and marching, come with some principle, come with some laws, come with some legislations. You got to fight every single day. It has to be your mission every single day. I had earned a day worker pay in the Wilmington. Well, we got $1 million from the governor. We was paying homeless people every single day to go outside and clean up and do different things. So we had initiatives here. It works here. We need to make Wilmington, Delaware a pilot city so that America can see what Wilmington has done and adopted it on a larger scale. Because again, we're small, we can contain, we know people from different parts of town, so let's make it a one nucleus, one project, one matter, and take the fight to where we need to be.
Chandra Pitts, a community activist, abolitionist, and a mother, gives us some details about the incarceration rate that we cannot ignore.
Peace, my name is Chandra Pitts. I'm an activist, humanitarian, and a mother right here in Wilmington, Delaware. I lead a social justice agency that does work globally. Some of the things I've seen in Delaware have really made my protest something that happens day in and day out. What happens in the streets is just a little part of that. As a social justice organization, we're very tuned into public policy, direct service, youth and family strengthening. So here in Delaware, we have the highest incarceration rate per capita in the entire world. So that's, you know, it's an extraordinary figure, and it's not something new. It's been a trend for decades that the state of Delaware boasts the highest incarceration rate per capita of anywhere in the entire world. Of all of the non-violent offenders, 87% of those individuals are black men. We only represent, as a black people, 20% of the entire population in the state of Delaware. So when you look at that, there's no other argument, and it's well documented, the egregious inequities, racism, and discrimination that exists. And it's not just among people and hatred and white supremacy, it's very systematic. And you know, there's laws in place and practices and the way policies are implemented that really have a devastating impact, not just on an individual who's locked behind bars during the time they're locked behind bars, but the pervasive impacts on that person's family, from their mother to their wives, their sisters, their children, their brothers, their siblings, the entire community. There's such a great impact, and we see that through extreme poverty, through violence of people having to be in survival mode because they don't have those fathers, they don't have those mothers. They're in a heightened state of trauma because their family members are incarcerated. And we abbreviate this thing to say mass incarceration, but what we're talking about is systematic, oppressive, massive incarceration that has increased 700-fold in just a 30-year period. So we have a huge issue, and larger than anywhere in the world, in Delaware, we have got to address massive incarceration head on. And that is just changing some really pointed laws, policies, and the way that black people are treated here in the state.
With so much going on in Wilmington, the citizens here do not run out of things to protest for.
Black Lives Matter.
In recent months, and even extending back to years, people that live in Wilmington have been protesting against the injustices that have happened in their city. With the younger generation coming of age, it seems that the older ones will pass the torch to those below them. However, it is unfortunate that a torch needs to be passed to fight injustices, and that these injustices have not already been stamped out and annihilated. With all of these things now known, one must ask themselves, what do we do next?
Y'all here protesting and marching, come with some principle, come with some laws, come with some legislations. You gotta fight every single day. It has to be your mission every single day. I had earned a day worker pay in the Wilmington. Well, we got $1 million from the governor. We was paying homeless people every single day to go outside and clean up and do different things. So we had initiatives here. It works here. We need to make Wilmington, Delaware a pilot city so that America can see what Wilmington has done and adopted it on a larger scale. Because again, we're small, we can contain, we know we're from different parts of town, so let's make it a one nucleus, one project, one matter, and take the fight to where we need to be. We don't stop here in City Hall. We don't stop in downstate, Dover. We don't stop there. We got to take the fight to D.C. We're not that far from D.C. There's no reason in the world why we cannot load up buses and get down to D.C. and protest and say we're representing Wilmington, Delaware. Let them know who we are. So when we don't fight for ourselves together, that's why Joe Biden didn't fight for us in that White House, because he knew we wasn't together here. They came here for a rock on a bridge that started crumbling and falling down. But you couldn't come here for the crime or guarantee to heal. People was dying and getting different diseases and the chemicals and stuff in the prison. So we got to understand that Wilmington is not only the first state, but it historically was never for black folks. Let's be real here. But we here, and we're impacting the city and the state on a large scale. They're using us. So now, what we have to do is what? Use our own resources to move forward. So we talk about 12, it's bigger than 12. It's bigger than 12. Police, EMT, fire, mayor. That's a nucleus, that's a team. They're sticking together. We gotta stick together.
More with care, because these are our futures. We don't know who my son might end up being. He might end up being the president. We don't know. God works in mysterious ways, and that's what we stand on. So just because of this small infraction, that does not mean that we're just going to write this young man off or any of them. We as a community want to build people up. We want to build our community up, and we want to feel as though that the people that are hired to protect and serve, that they doing it in a morally respectful way. You understand? We respect the fact they have jobs. You understand? But we want to be guaranteed that we're not mishandled at all, you know what I mean? So you got some of them out here that just don't care, and they gonna just do it their way because that's what they're conditioned to. Just being a, you know, a hard rock or whatever you want to call them. I don't want to keep throwing that racism thing, you know, because it ain't, you know, all about racism, but it is. So it is what it is. People know what it is. We've been suffering from it for years. I think this is the perfect time that we all need to stand up and say enough is enough.
You know, it just doesn't make any sense. If you go back to the DOJ's report, you clearly can see the Attorney General Mack Dent, who was the Attorney General at that time, he stated in his investigation report that Joseph DeLuce should not be in any position where he has to carry a firearm. He said that he showed poor police work. Poor police work. Jeremy McDowell was unarmed. He did not deserve that at all. There was other things that they could have done if they so-called felt threatened for their life, which I don't understand how they felt threatened for their life when Joseph DeLuce alone was Joseph DeLuce was about 5 to 6 feet from Jeremy McDowell, behind no cover. He was right in front of him. It's a shame that so many unarmed people around the world are dying by the hands of police. Unarmed people. We're not talking about people who are shooting up churches. We're not talking about people who are just waving guns and just shooting people. We're talking about unarmed people dying by the hands of the same individuals who took an oath to protect and serve us. They are executing us. It's many of stories. They're not protecting and serving no more. They are aiming shooting and killing us and getting away with it. No, they're not being held accountable at all. Why is it that if we get arrested for committing a crime, we have to go through a whole process? We get arrested, you go in front of a judge, they give you a bail or no bail. If you can't post the bail or you don't get a bail, you got to sit in jail until the DOJ or the Attorney General decide that they don't have enough evidence on you to pursue a charge against you, or until you're proven innocent or guilty. Why is it that police officers around the world are being held at a higher level than us? It just doesn't make any sense. They're people. Why is it? This is a disease that's spreading. It has spread faster than the AIDS virus has spread. The only cure for this disease, police brutality, is for police officers to be held accountable for their actions. Until then, you can't say that you're trying to fix policing in communities. You can't say that you're trying to build some type of trust between communities and police. You can't say that you're trying to build some type of trust between the people and police. It's not going to happen until officers are held accountable for the crimes that they commit while wearing a badge. The crimes that they commit towards unarmed people who pose no threat. Why is it that we have video footages of many police-involved shootings that show the opposite of what the police officer said happened? We have video footage. Why is it that that video footage isn't enough to charge and prosecute these officers? Why is it? Jeremy McDowell didn't have a gun. You have to use your own eyes and the brain that you was blessed with. Stop allowing the system to tell you what you know and what you don't know. Stop allowing the system to tell you what you can see and what you can't see. Jeremy McDowell was unarmed and he did not have a weapon. Jeremy McDowell fell on the left side of his wheelchair. How is it that the gun in his wheelchair landed between 6 to 8 feet on the opposite side of Jeremy McDowell? How is it? Wilmington police been crooked since Wilmington police been here. Until officers are held accountable, the community don't trust the police. And that's just not here in Wilmington, Delaware. That's all around the world. Pay attention.
Discovered evidence just to have the spokesperson for Kathleen Jennings to turn around and say that I haven't provided any newly discovered evidence. Keandra McDowell earlier provided newly discovered evidence, some witnesses that had never been interviewed. She gave them the names of the witnesses and the numbers of the witnesses, and Kathleen Jennings still has not committed. She would not commit, even though her office said if they had newly discovered evidence, they would reopen the investigation. She has not committed to reopening the investigation. She just said that she's going to interview these witnesses. So I asked Keandra McDowell's permission, and she granted me permission to send a letter out to the U.S. Attorney for the state of Delaware to have them do an investigation into what happened to Jeremy McDowell. And I'm going to send that out at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning because I have no confidence, no faith in this Attorney General's office under the lack of leadership of Kathleen Jennings.
The future of Wilmington is unclear, but it is definitely certain that the pursuit of justice has no end in sight. We will continue to keep an eye on Wilmington, and we hope to report in a year from now that there have been some resolutions as well as some changes. Thank you for watching.